tell us what you think the lesson of Charlie Kirk's life and death are. Like, what strikes you immediately?
Well, one of the big questions is how did somebody get to that place where it seemed perfectly reasonable for them to get a gun and shoot a living human
Yes.
being?
Yes.
And some people know in your audience that I'm also a hypnotist. I'm a trained hypnotist. And so I tend to look at these situations through that filter. And through that filter, you can see a really clear cause and effect. Starting around, let's say 2016, there was wall-to-wall Hitler, Nazis, 24 hours. Before that, there had been other Republicans who had been accused of being Hitler. But I think that everybody treated it like hyperbole. It's just, it's a political insult, and it's the most common one, so you don't take it too seriously.
Yes.
But imagine being a young kid and growing up when the news, the people in nice clothing would go on TV, and they would say, in all seriousness, he's basically Hitler. The Nazis are coming, and you would create a mass hysteria. Now, a mass hysteria would be worse than TDS or Trump derangement syndrome, because that would be sort of what happens to an individual, that could have TDS. But if you have a lot of people who have TDS and they start talking to each other, pretty soon you've got a mass hysteria. And the mass hysteria created this, what I call a Hitlerian bubble, meaning that a lot of people are living in what they think is a reality that is just completely Hitlerized. They see Hitler everywhere, and they see it in Trump, they see it in his lieutenants. And this is different. So this is not like what we've seen before. All it takes to completely brainwash somebody to believe ridiculous things, even things that their observations should tell them are not true. All you need is people in good suits whose job makes them seem credible to say day after day, it's the repetition that matters, Hitler, Hitler, Hitler. And you convince people that they're living in a hellscape and they better do something about it. So the main thing I saw was that. And once the bubble is formed, it's hard to get out. You can't talk people out of it. There's no amount of information that will change their mind. Cognitive dissonance will kick in if you show them a counterexample. And the weird thing about Charlie, who I'd never met, by the way, I didn't have the pleasure. The weird thing is that when I started hearing all the accusations, and there were a lot of them, I said to myself, well, I'll bet some of these might be a little bit true. So I started to look for the original quotes, etc. None of them are true. And there were a lot of them. They were all either a made-up quote or a quote and a context, and nothing else. And when you hear people talking about it, especially the young people, they'll say things like, he was a bad hater person, but there's no example. So that's sort of the sign that it's a mass hysteria, because they can't give reasons, and they don't seem too interested in the reasons. They're just sure that something has to be done. Now, on top of that, for the young people, there's probably also an economic pressure. They might feel that life doesn't have a positive path, so that might be playing into this a little bit as well. But I do wonder what will happen, and I predict that there's going to be another big bubble of psychological distress when the people who have said such bad things about him in public realize that none of it was true. Because over time, it looks like he's going to be talked about so much that we'll finally have a complete body of information about him so we can understand them. And it won't happen to most people. Most people will just have cognitive dissonance. They'll still believe he was, Hitler Jr., but there will be some people, not a big percentage, who are going to realize that they did something so shameful that it will haunt them for the rest of their lives, that they were part of saying something terrible about one of the best people that we've witnessed. I mean, he genuinely was a high character person, and you could see it in everything he did. So there's something big coming up. Yeah. But then another thing that happened that was fascinating to me, because I didn't expect it, which was The Democrats have always had what I'd call a machine, which is that since they worked with the media, they had the media in their pocket, you would see it happen when they'd have all right, our message this week are these words, and then everybody would say the same words. And then the media would just pump it out. So it was like this big, well-functioning machine. And then they had the NGOs and all the funding tricks, et cetera. But when Charlie Kirk died, you could almost feel this massive energy being released. He sort of controlled it, but when it was released, his mortal coil was no more. I feel like that energy just went into people. And suddenly tens of millions of people simultaneously said, what can I do? What can I do right now? Yeah, that's different. People don't say, I'm going to stop everything. Tell me what to do. I'm going to go to church. A lot of people did. I'm going to say stuff on social media. I'm going to hunt down the people who said bad things and cancel them. But I'm going to do something. We're going to figure out how to start another chapter of TPUSA, and all of that's happening, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. The vigils, et cetera. If anything, the energy, it might be growing. And I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've never seen the Republicans turn into their own machine, and now it is a machine, and it's going to be incredible. I was thinking yesterday. It sounds like a joke, but it's quite serious. The thing that protects the Democrats from also having some kind of problem like this is that they don't have any leaders that are worth taking off the board. I mean, if you said to me, somebody's got a plot to take Tim Walz off the board, I would say, oh, no. If you're a Republican, you want to keep him there because he's not doing a good job. Your Jasmine Crockett's, your Chuck Schumer's. I say, please keep them right where they are. They're doing a great job. Nobody needs to harm them. But on top of that, I don't believe that Republicans, conservatives ever even think that way. I've never heard one say anything suggesting violence, like not even in just a casual conversation, the joking way you might do it in private, nothing like that. And I think it has to do with the fact that overall, the conservatives, the Republicans, MAGA people tend to look at Democrats almost as if they're clowns. They say things that literally make me laugh. No joke. I sound like Biden there, but I literally that frightened me a little bit. I literally will watch the news and watch Republican, prominent people talking because I think it's funny. And when they watch, when the left watches the right, they think they're watching monsters.
Yes.
So you can imagine how somebody would want to kill a monster, but nobody wants to kill a clown. Well, maybe somebody does, but so far Republicans have not wanted to kill any clowns. And I do think, well, first of all, the cancellations we're seeing, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it because my point of view is that the people involved who are getting canceled are themselves brainwashed. And I don't mean that in sort of the, I don't know, the hypothetical way or anything. Like, I mean, actually, literally, they've been exposed to the strongest brainwashing you could have, which is about 8 years of wall-to-wall Hitler. And, Charlie's one of the generals. So if you can't get to the Hitler, you're thinking, well, maybe one of the generals will be less protected. And that was the case. But I feel a little bit bad for them because they're victims too. But at the same time, the way society works, you can't let them get away with that. So, there has to be some reckoning. And I am enjoying, I have to say, being a canceled person myself, I am enjoying the Schadenfreude or the catharsis of seeing that it can go both ways, at least for now. And by the way, I do think that the violence goes in both directions, but I don't think that there's an equivalent to a massive machine that's been creating a situation that guaranteed there would be violence. If you just keep saying Hitler and you're selling it not as hyperbole, but you're selling it as absolute fact, the people who don't have access to alternative theories are going to believe that, and they're going to act on it. So, and I like the fact that there's a little mutually assured destruction. The left is getting to see a little bit of payback, reminding that the Republicans aren't going to take infinite abuse. There's going to be a point where it's going to come back. I kind of like that. But it just overall, I wouldn't be proud of it. The cancellations.
I agree.
I do believe that they're brainwashed victims.
So
I do wonder. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I thought your description of brainwashing seems accurate. It's very distressing to think that could happen in our free republic, the free and brave United States. I thought the people were more independent-minded than that. So that's sad. It's probably just human, though, a weakness that we all share, the susceptibility to propaganda. But why would you want to hypnotize a population or a portion of it? Like, usually there's a goal in mind. What's the goal here?
Well, power. Democrats know that they can win an election that way. If they had better ideas and better policies and charismatic leaders, I imagine that's what they'd go with.
Yeah.
But Trump enters the contest, and you have the most charismatic leader with sensational ideas, according to at least his base. What are you going to do? He's the common sense guy. Are you going to say, we really do want the border open? We really do want a little bit more crime in our urban centers? What are you going to do? You don't have any kind of a rational attack to the common sense president who's been here before and knows how to get this stuff done. So it's just all they have. And I don't know that it's intentional that they did it so hard that it guaranteed violence. I don't think violence was the intention. I think just winning elections was the intention.
Yeah, that sounds right.